Welcome, everyone, to the Computer Science for All event. My name is Alan Mather. I'm the Chief Officer of the Office of College and Career Success at CPS. Say that 3 times quickly. First, before we get into anything, I want to thank our hosts this evening, Google. First, Jesse Chuy Chavez. Jesse, where are you? Over here. All right. Hey, Jesse. Jesse is a software engineer on the data liberation team in Chicago and has been at Google for over 8 years. Born and raised in Little Village, he attended CPS schools through elementary school. He has prior experience teaching and spends 20% of his time coordinating education outreach and participating in diversity efforts in the Chicago office. And he was recently named in the Crain's Tech 50 list of people in Chicago's technology community. Congratulations. And Rob Biederman. Where's Rob? Right here, heads up the Government Relations and Public Affairs Office for Google in the Midwest, where he ensures that public policy will continue to allow the internet to grow, innovate, and provide opportunities for all. He's been at Google for almost 4 years. Prior to joining Google, he worked at all levels of government, including as communications director for the Illinois Attorney General, Lisa Madigan. Thank you, Rob. So we are here to celebrate and accelerate computer science for all. You know, I've been in the Chicago public schools for 30 years. I'm a lifer. I've seen a lot of changes in those 30 years, but I have to say, in Chicago, for all the kind of vilification that happens of the Chicago public school system, there is more innovation that happens in Chicago than so many other places, certainly than any other place in Illinois. Because I want to go back, in 1986, I hitchhiked up here to Chicago from rural southern Indiana. Every once in a while, the Indiana accent will come out. And when I hitchhiked up here, you know, that was a time where principals didn't hire teachers. I remember going to the board office, I think 4 times. One time I had to go for fingerprints. You know, there was always a different reason to hitchhike up here. But they also didn't want to see my resume, as I was told, oh, resumes don't matter. You could have a great resume and not be able to teach. But I was sitting in Indianapolis, living with my brother for 2 weeks, subbing in a 2nd grade class, and I called up here, and the person, Steve, on the line said, yeah, you can start at Farragut on Monday. I said, okay. Borrowed a car, got up here, showed up at Farragut Career Academy on 23rd and Christiana, walked in, was told, here's your schedule. Said, what do I teach? He said, well, the book room's over there. You can take anything that's not been claimed so far. Great. No curriculum, no plans. There was a reason for that I cried for the first 30 days of teaching in a row. 12 years later, after stints at Westinghouse Insurers, I was selected to be the assistant principal at the opening of Northside College Prep on the North Side. And we were thinking about what school should be in that time and decided to do things a little differently, created 1 day a week where we had no traditional classes, students earned no credit, and they applied the knowledge that they learned. We talked about, you know, you have students who know how to do physics, but if they can never hold a screwdriver and use it, that may be a problem. I think that was you, Jeff, saying that. We also decided that we should start with computer science. And we found a teacher I had worked with before, Don Yannick, who was teaching physics at Schurz at the time, and brought him in to chair the new computer science department. He was the department of 1. And he took that department and he grew it. And after 6.5 years, I had the opportunity to take over at Lindblom, to restart a rich school at Lindblom. And once again, we needed to start with the computer science department. We saw the good that Don did and wanted to replicate that. But those are selective enrollment schools. And computer science for all does not mean computer science just at selective enrollment schools. means for all. You know, my own experience with computer science was when I was in college and we were still using punch cards. And this is not your mother's or father's, well, it probably is your mother and father's I was talking about. It's not your sister's computer science anymore. We still had the idea in those early days that computer science was somebody sitting in his dark basement in his tighty-whities, holding a bag of Doritos here, having the big gulp here, gaming, and every once in a while writing some code and all through the night. But that's not what it is anymore and not what it should be. At Lindblom, we kept plotting to keep computer science alive. I mean, we needed to keep that one teacher to keep it going and kept kind of moving kids in there. And then this amazing woman came up, Brenda Wilkerson. To lead computer science in our district. And you know, Brenda changed how we thought. Her energy, her passion, her focus, her intellect. She is truly a national leader in this. And you know, later I'll talk about the Obama's Computer Science for All initiative. Just recently, Brenda got a call from Wisconsin saying, so what does this mean for us? Well, we'd be competing with you, so I don't know that I really want to tell you, but these are the kind of calls Brenda gets because she's so affiliated and associated with this. And even though we had these innovations, some schools are still mired in that factory model that I noticed in 1986, or that I walked into then, where English had nothing to do with math, math had nothing to do with science, science had nothing to do with history, history had nothing to do with PE, PE had nothing to do with fine arts. But at the same time that those are still going on, there is still a transformation happening. Brenda talked about diversifying computer science, infusing it. She said, you know, if you're into fashion, fashion designers use computer science. Chemists use computer science. Visual artists use computer science. Publishers, she went on and described how computer science is used differently than many of us thought. And we were able to go back and articulate that to our students. This has helped break down that factory model, those factory barriers. And yes, some people move slowly. They put math with science and English with history. But now we look at physics and music and how those are paired. We looked at math and history. We look at real integration across content areas that sometimes doing away with content areas. And this came kind of real to me. How many of you have read Michael Pollan's Botany of Desire? Okay, a few of you. It's an awesome book. So in the Botany of Desire, Michael Pollan takes 4 plants: the potato, the tulip, marijuana, and the apple, and describes their effect on society and society's effect on them. He looks at literature, science, law, economics, politics, on and on, about a single plant. And you take that and say, my gosh, education could be so different. And finally, schools are being rethought. You know, we still have this idea that you earn a credit when you sit down for 120 hours in a class. If we're focused on the seat time, we're looking at the wrong end of the child. So creating a grad requirement where students learn coding, but also collaboration, problem solving, equity, opportunity, skills that can be measured in a content area, but across content areas, inside and outside of school, and have them count for school. Thank you. Computer Science for All, a term coined by Brenda and Vinu Verma over here, sitting in her office, has now been adopted by New York. And yes, they gave their props to Chicago for coming up with this. And now they are spending $81 million for 10 years to implement Computer Science for All. We'd like to get to there in Chicago too. President Obama has presented a budget for Computer Science for All. $4 billion for states, if passed. Hundreds of millions of dollars for cities and localities to implement this. And it started here. It started in Chicago. It started with Brenda, and it has moved to the White House. So it's time to envision opportunities for our students, the transformation of schools. Chicago businesses will have their needs filled at home by our own students, both in the skills they need and the diversity of their workforce. Tonight, you will hear from the champions of computer science. You will celebrate the good work that they have done. But you will also be called on to help accelerate the work that needs to be done, away from the compartmentalization of traditional schools, moving into the interconnectedness of what we do. And to do this, we need to support these innovators. You will hear from the Dons, the Brendas, the Safias, the Stevens. They are individuals. And while they clearly have limitless energy, they cannot do it all. Even they have limits. This is a critical juncture. It's incumbent upon all of us to work together to lead to the success of computer science and to our students through supporting teachers, coaching instructors, designing and implementing curriculum as part of a story that many in this room have been writing. Listen to their stories. Marvel at what has taken place. Help them write the next chapter. It'll be a beautiful read. And an important chapter here was written by Mayor Emanuel, who in December of 2013 announced his effort to make computer science a graduation requirement and to ensure that students at all levels are exposed to CS and IT. And here to talk a little bit about that is Sadie Stockdale Jefferson, Deputy Policy Director for the Mayor of Chicago, who again announced that push in December. Sadie helps to shape current priorities and advises internal and external stakeholders on public policy implications. Prior to this, she was the Associate Director of Education for the Mayor, working closely with senior staff, district leaders, and community organizations to execute on the Mayor's educational priorities, including Computer Science for All. And she and I hang out all the time at 42 West Madison. So, my dear friend, Sadie Stockdale Jefferson.
It is true. Alan and I do text late at night, early in the morning. So does Vinu, Brenda, and I feel like I do work at CPS because I am there so often, which is great. And I mean, I was going to make a joke about when Alan was starting to teach. I was not yet born, but I won't do that to you, Alan. That's okay. So, I think on behalf of the mayor, he wasn't able to come tonight, but first, thank you for attending. I didn't think it'd be this big of a crowd, but I think there's so much energy around computer science in the city, rightfully so, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And I also want to thank Google for hosting tonight. We're really thankful to have your support for this initiative. And I also want to, Alan stole my thunder, but I want to call out Brenda Wilkerson. I think the first day I started a couple years ago, Brenda somehow already tracked down my information and said, I'd like to talk to you about this initiative and how important it is for the students of Chicago Public Schools. She's a tireless advocate. We actually, I don't know if you remember this, Brenda, we were summer seatmates together in Education Pioneers. And so she was a fellow and I was a fellow, and we sat by each other, and she was already talking about computer science. And so this is something that is really important to Brenda, and you can tell in any interaction you have with her, and I think that that's what makes this initiative so special. So thank you for that. Yeah. So as you all probably heard, last fall, the mayor announced a $35 million federal award that supports his commitment in providing every child in every classroom with a modern learning environment. Particularly, this investment will increase the infrastructure in Chicago public schools and enable internet access for all of our schools. And so we're really excited about this investment the federal government is making in us. But with these upgrades, It means that our students are no longer limited to some of the things Alan was talking about, to technology really in the abstract, or using computers to learn typing, which I know is what I learned them for. It's what I still use the majority of computers for at City Hall. We do not have laptops. We have old Dell, stationary computers. So would love to get Google's help. Shout out. No, okay, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Help CPS, not us. We know that, though, with this investment in infrastructure and with this investment in computer science, students will now be able to learn interactively with the world around them, via one-on-one connections with other students, and it will really increase their competitiveness and competence in the language of the 21st century, language that we know our employers use. Right? So this increased capacity is particularly important as we prepare on Wednesday to roll out the Computer Science for All graduation requirement. As Alan already mentioned, this is the most comprehensive K-12 computer science plan of any district in any state, probably the most thrifty as well, and by that I mean we are probably the least funded initiative. As Alan mentioned, the $81 million that New York is getting. If you have that today, please volunteer that money. No, I'm just kidding. But we know that this is aimed at providing students with the skills to succeed in computer-related jobs here in Chicago. And we also know that thousands of computing-based jobs in the city of Chicago go unfilled every year because our students currently lack the skills in computer science and information technology. So initiatives like this will finally bridge that gap. And I think I'd be remiss to say, lastly, that we live in a city with so much wealth, but so much disparity, something we all know, right? Over 85% of our students in the city are on free and reduced lunch. And I love the coin and the idea of Computer Science for All, because this initiative is, yes, for our students who could probably get these advancements without having this graduation requirement, but first and foremost, and I taught in a low-income district, my mom didn't graduate high school, right? Like, these are things that are really pressing to me. Like, this initiative, first and foremost, helps people who could not otherwise afford these opportunities. But we as CPS, and I say the royal we because I am there a lot, cannot do it alone. In order to deliver high-quality computer science, we need all of you in this room. We need you to volunteer like we know a lot of individuals do in this room. We need the early college STEM schools that we know a lot of you in this room help fund and help bring mentors to. And we honestly need all the resources that you can muster up tonight to help support this initiative, but more so to help support our students in Chicago. So thank you in advance, and I am actually heading out to class. I'm gonna power walk to Loyola, so please don't think I'm just skipping out, but I really appreciate you letting me come speak, and thank you very much.
What Sadie should have said is we need 82 million just to beat New York, so that goes without saying. So it is definitely my pleasure to introduce Don Yannick to me, who has been a friend for years since our days teaching together at Schurz. He's the Department of Computer Science Chair at Northside College Prep High School, founder of the Computer Science Department there, founder and president of the Chicago chapter of the Computer Science Teachers Association, co-PI on the National Science Foundation Computing Education in the 21st Century Grant, Accelerate CS4All. The goal of the research is to develop a coaching and peer mentoring protocol for computer science teachers. He's a former co-PI on the NSF CE21 Taste of Computing Grant to facilitate professional development for teachers in Chicago and Illinois. Don is a National Exploring Computer Science Teacher Professional Development Facilitator, a pilot for the APCS Principles course, an ASCSA teacher, an advisor for the National Education and Computing Science program at Illinois State. He's a National Center for Women in Information Technology Aspirations in Computer Education Award winner, and he plays drums in the indie rock band The Purcells, which is awesome. You should go see them sometime. He's also definitely invested because he has 3 children in the Chicago Public Schools right now. My friend Don Yannick.
Thank you very much, Alan. And just to give a little back, I don't know if you realize this, but Alan is right now the first and only principal to win the Golden Apple Teacher Award. So I'm going to, well, first of all, raise your hand if you're a student or an educator. Okay, I feel a lot better now, a little less nervous. And if you're a student, please feel free to raise your hand and ask if you can go to the bathroom right now. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of how we got to this point tonight, this is just incredible. I'm just knocked out at how many people are here, and some of the student projects out there were just incredible. Wow. And I was thinking about, like, what are the themes? Like, what do I want to communicate to you tonight? And really, it's 2 things, and they're themes that as educators we think about all the time, and we want our children, our students to really embrace and come away with. And those are that one person or a small group can affect real change. And the second is the importance of cooperation, that creating strong partnerships and building community is important. And those are the 2 things that I think that are, if I can call it a movement, have accomplished. And so I'm going to take us back to 2009. And I was at a conference, a computer science conference in Portland, along with my colleague at the time, Jeff Solon. And we were in a room kind of like this. It was a panel discussion about what to do about the decreasing enrollment of students in high school computer science. And so they were giving a lot of facts and everything. And so this is sort of like the shot heard around the world for us. And it came time for the Q&A session, and my colleague Jeff Solon stood up. Jeff, could you stand up, please? And what did you say, Jeff? Yes.
Remember what I said? I say a lot. I think I said we're struggling in Chicago, and things are falling apart, and we need help.
Yeah. He basically asked, is there anyone here that could help us? Incidentally, Jeff is named by the National Center for Women in Information Technology, the largest academic and professional association for women in computer science. He was just won their Educator Award for his work in encouraging young women to take computer science. Thank you, Jeff. So he stood up at this meeting and said, is there anyone who will help us? And way in the back was a gentleman, Jim Amon, who has since retired and moved back to Ohio, but said he was the chair of the computer science department at Xavier University, and he said, I'll help you. And so we met him after the panel discussion, and we decided that when we got back to Chicago, we would get together and talk about what we could do about computer science in Chicago, particularly in high school. And at the same time, we decided that, the Computer Science Teachers Association was just starting. It makes sense that we should form a chapter. And so at our first meeting was myself, Jeff, Dale Reed, could you please stand up from UIC? Thank you, Dale. And is Baker Frankie here? Is Baker here? I didn't see him before. Baker Frankie was then at the University of Chicago Lab School and now is just completed Co.org's curriculum for the new College Board course, Principles of Computer Science. So, and we decided at this meeting that one of our goals is we wanted there to be a computer science graduation requirement in Chicago. Because after all, it's the 21st century. Why isn't this happening? And so we enlisted some help, and this is where the building partnerships come in. We enlisted some help from Dr. Ron Greenberg from Loyola University. Ron, could you stand up, please? And his idea was, well, if you want to get people to pay attention to you, maybe we should write a National Science Foundation research grant and have them give you money, and then people will listen. Well, so we wrote a grant, and it was denied, because it turns out no one's willing to give you money just for enthusiasm. And so we didn't really have anything except this idea that we thought it was great. You know, computer science at the time was two polar opposites, sort of. Either you were studying apps, Microsoft Office, or you were studying programming. But we knew there was all this rich material in the middle that students would get excited about, and how could we get them to learn that? And so about the same time, this book was published, Stuck in the Shallow End. And as an educator in here and an administrator or policymaker, if you haven't read this, you really need to read this. It's a research study of 4 high schools in the LA Unified School District. The demographics are very similar to here in Chicago. And really the theme comes down to the failure to teach computer science to women and minority students. And that we have lots of schools that are resource rich but curriculum poor. And so the writers of this book were so upset by what they found that they decided they had to do something about it, and they wrote a curriculum called Exploring Computer Science that was specifically focused on specifically focused on equity and providing an opportunity, a class that was student-centered, not teacher-centered. And so we thought, this is perfect for us. This is what we want to do. We want this course. And so once again, Ron Greenberg stepped up to the plate, and we affectionately call him the Prime Minister of the Computer Science Teachers Association here, and provided the money for Dale and myself and Jeff to go out to Los Angeles to do some professional development and find out what exploring computer science is all about. So this is this is 2010. And when we got there, it was really life-changing. We were expecting this professional development to be something that probably many of you are familiar with. You're in a room, there's PowerPoint slides, somebody talking up front, and you pay attention for about 25 minutes, and then you start checking your email. And that's what we were expecting was going to happen, but that's not what happened. That's not what happened. Instead, we really talked about how to teach. And not just how to teach, but how to teach where we include all of the students. And so at the end of the day, every day, we were just excited and talking about what happened in our experience at the professional development. It was a think, pair, share model, pretty much, where we were actually teaching the lessons. And then when we got done teaching, the teacher learners in there, we would talk about what the experience was, what happened. And I don't know, are there administrators in here? Is there principals in here? Anybody a principal? Okay, there's only 1, 2, 3. Good, I can say this then. So I have a confession that prior to this, like my teaching, and I'm not ashamed to say this because I've grown so much since then, but when I was teaching, I'm at a podium like this, coding, students coding, coding, students coding. And there could have been an infinite abyss between this podium and the first student, and I was never in danger of falling into it. That changed with this professional development. No longer was the class about me, but it was about the students. So we had this curriculum and this tested PD model that we're really excited about. We came back to Chicago. We wanted to write another grant. And Ron said, I know just the person that will write this grant for you. And it was Lucia DeTore, the Associate Dean of Computing and Digital Media at DePaul, and she actually wanted to write it. And so we have this, the curriculum now, and we send it off. And in the meantime, Jesse Chavez, Jesse, where are you? He left already. It's been a long day for him. Oh, there he is. So at that time, Google was doing CS4HS summer programs. He encouraged us to apply. We got grant money, and we ran our first Exploring Computer Science PD here in Chicago as part of a CS4HS experience. Well, it turns out our second proposal was denied. We had the curriculum, but they told us, well, so you've got a curriculum, but who's going to teach it? There are no computer science teachers, so we're not going to give it any money. And then along comes Brenda, who's tasked with restructuring career and technology education for the Chicago Public Schools, and she has great plans to create specific IT academies. And to put it in perspective of Brenda's role, I kind of think of her as, and everyone in here will get this, by the way, because she's our Captain Kirk. Just so you know, I'm Dr. McCoy. That'll give you an idea. And Dale is Spock. And Lucia is Scotty. So that, you know, when you talk to them later, you'll understand that. And so Brenda realized right away that the ECS course would be perfect as a foundation course for all of the individual IT strands. Dale had years of practicing a CS roadshow where he went around to high schools and did little computer science tricks, and he brought out those tricks to the people, the directors of CTE, and they bought it hook, line, and sinker. So now we had the idea the teachers are going to come from career and technology education. So we had the curriculum, we had the teachers, and we got the grant. And that's the Taste of Computing grant, a 3-year, $1 million study to provide training for CTE teachers to learn about teaching to equity and teaching in an inquiry-based classroom. And it was so successful that the state of Utah, New York City, Washington, D.C., and even Milwaukee adopted our model of converting CTE teachers to well, they're already computer science teachers in my eyes, but converting them to teach this curriculum. And so we have been working for 2 years then, providing summer professional development to 30 teachers at a time. And our grant is getting near the end, and luckily along comes code.org. Jenna Garcia, are you in here? Where are you? Jenna is a former Chicago public school teacher turned representative for code.org, and she is helping us navigate the waters as we move toward a high school graduation requirement here in Chicago. Thank you, Jenna. So what code.org was able to do was provide more visibility, and it was a connection to the mayor's office. So the third part of the theme that I didn't mention at the beginning that I think is really terrific about Chicago is this, like I said, this partnership, but we have teachers. It's a teacher-led movement taught by teachers. We have district policy makers and directors, and then we have the mayor's office too, all together. And that's just what other cities haven't accomplished that yet, and that we are doing really well. So up till now, we've done professional development for 175 teachers, and over 10,000 Chicago Public School high school students now have taken a computer science course. And I'm going to clap. And now, Steve Svetlik, are you here? Steve? Is he here? Dale, you told me he was here. There's now a suburban chapter of the Computer Science Teachers Association, which is working on some of the same things that we're doing here in Chicago. And so that's a win-win for us. And so tonight, what we're here to find out is more about how all these pieces are fitting together and how other school districts are probably going to want to adopt this. But so now I want to call up for you to get a student perspective. And next coming up is Safi Abdallah. She was my student and Jeff's student. And a couple things, probably as a freshman, she had already surpassed my knowledge of computer science, but was too humble in class to let me know about it. Some other things you should know about her is that when her family traveled to South Sudan, where she's from, she decided that she couldn't just go there for a vacation to meet family, that she had to do something for computer science. And so she got the local school to allow her to teach some computer science to some of the young girls in her small village. She hacked her iPhone so that she had an internet connection, and she taught some girls in her home village about computer science. As a junior, and there's a representative from this company probably in here, and I won't name them. She interviewed for a summer internship as a junior in high school, and instead of offering her the internship, they offered her a full-time job. And in 2014, she was recognized by the National Center for Women in Information Technology for aspirations in computer science. Every year they pick the top 30 young women in high school in computer science, and she was selected in 2014 for her work, not only in her home village, but here in Chicago, with other young women. So, Safia, could you please come up?
So I feel like Don overhyped me, but we'll see about that. Let me see if I can get my slides rolling. Yes. So I'm a fan of transcendentalist literature, so I call this presentation Where I Code and What I Code For. And I just want to share my story of how I got into computing because I think it's a pretty interesting and unique story. And I think it provides us all a perspective of why we need CS4All and why we need it at a very early stage in a student's life. I'm Captain Safia on Twitter, by the way. I, too, am a fan of Star Trek, hence the captain. My story starts in this room, believe it or not. It was the summer before I started high school, and I was obsessed with documentaries. There was a website online that I would go to, and every day I would spend hours and hours watching documentaries. And then this one fateful day, I watched a documentary on the history of computing. And it started by exploring all the work that people were doing in the 50s and 40s to build the first computers. And it followed computing through the 60s, through the 70s, through the 80s, through the 90s. It told stories of these men and women who were creative, who were hackers, who were builders, who were makers. And I felt so excited because they seemed so free and smart and insightful and impactful. They were all things that I wanted to be. And interestingly enough, the film ended with the story of Google, and I think this is the perfect place to tell the story. It told the story of two PhD students who built something called Backrub for their PhD thesis and followed it to what it would eventually become, which was the company Google. And I remember sitting in my room watching this documentary at that point, and I thought, if two disgusting boys with cooties could build the biggest internet company in the world, can you imagine what a girl could do? Sorry, boys, you're not all disgusting, but you all definitely have cooties. And so I started coding. The great thing about computers is that there is so much online to learn. There is so much that is available freely. All you need is an open mind and an open perspective. So I spent the summer before high school teaching myself Python from a book called Learn Python the Hard Way. Has any student here who wrote their first program, wrote their first Hello World program, probably with a teacher, did it run fine the first time? Raise your hand if it ran fine the first time. Second time? Third time? It took me 3 days to debug mine. But I kept going at it, and it was that perseverance and that ability to be rewarded at the end that really captured my interest in the field. If you worked hard enough, if you studied hard enough, you got what you wanted in the end. You got that green button, you got that running code, and that was satisfying. So I mentioned Google. My interests were actually in building search engines at the point, so I spent a lot of time reading books and papers that were probably way over my age and way over what I knew about math and computer science at the time, but I did it nonetheless. At that point, I got into Northside College Prep High School. My parents were obviously super excited. The first class, I knew I wanted to be in computer science, so I signed up for the Introduction to Computer Science class with some guy named Don Yannick, who I didn't know at that point. And that was really my first exposure to computer science for all. And this is something that I realized in hindsight after going through 4 years of the program is just how impactful it would be. I have several classmates who took that first computer science class with me on a whim, just to see if they were good at it, just to see what it was about. They're now dispersed across some of the best universities in the country, and they're all majoring in computer science. That's what CS4All does to people. It helps them find their passion, and it helps them lock a really lucrative career pathway and a really satisfying intellectual endeavor. And another exciting thing about CS4All, and I think something that's so important when we think about our children and what they're doing, is I've never not had a job since I was 15. I have always had something that could put money in my bank. I was making dollar bills. since I was 15 years old. And that's because I knew how to code. I knew how to build things. I had a really marketable skill. And that was really empowering. The ability to go after school to Dunkin' Donuts and buy an extra large iced coffee with my own money that I made is really important. And we need to get that skill and that satisfaction of earning for yourself and that independence into the hands of tons of children. And I know we talked about money a lot today, and it's 81 million and it's 82 million. I'm not in policy or in education, but I think that one thing that everyone in Chicago has that a lot of other places might not is empathy and passion. To make things like this work, you need to understand the students that you're teaching. You need to understand what their dreams are, what their ideas are, what their communities look like, why they sat in your class in the first place. And that, above money, above equipment, is what you need to make successful computer science education. So I want to pat every educator who is in the room right now on the back, because if it wasn't for Jeff or Don or Dr. Nguyen understanding what I wanted to be, I probably wouldn't have made it through 4 years and decided to declare a computer science major at one of the toughest universities in the Midwest. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm a computer science major at Northwestern University. I'm in my second year. So I'm halfway there, getting closer every day. Thank you. It's been a really exciting journey, and if you told me 6 years ago that I would be here right now, I probably wouldn't have believed you. But again, that's the kind of impact and power that CS4All has. And I know Don pretty much told my entire life story at the beginning, but I always like to share what I'm up to now and what my passions are. The thing I love most about computer science is I have the ability to mix it with other things and bring it into things that I care about in life. I'm a part-time software engineer on an open source project called Project Jupiter. I develop web applications that help scientists and researchers across the country and across the world study better and share their ideas and scientific narratives with each other. I also organize the PyData Chicago group in the city. I bring together a group of developers, data scientists, researchers in the city, and together we build tools to help us enable and enhance what we do. And I gotta give a shout out to Jeff Solon here. I started my own consulting company. When I was in high school, Jeff Solon hired me as a contractor for his consulting company. And I did SEO and web development and figured out how it is you run a consulting agency. So I figured it was about time to start my own. So I run a company, DISVA, that helps local organizations and small businesses with their data problems. We provide data science services, we build data-driven web apps, we help them think about their data infrastructure, lots of interesting things that you can talk to me about later. I'll be around. And that was it. That was short and sweet, trying to keep everybody on track. I want to thank you guys for having me, and I want to thank you for being here in the room. Not a lot of people are going to come to the West Loop for a 3-hour event on a Monday, but the fact that you guys are here means that you care about your students and you care about this, and you guys are in the right room to be mixing and interacting and chatting with each other. I put my email on there. It's safia@safia.rocks. .rocks is a domain name that exists. I feel like you should have all your students buy that. It's very uplifting and helps with your self-esteem. I love getting emails from people. I love getting emails from people, so please send me messages if you want to have me TA something, if you want to have me speak at your school, if you want to hear my thoughts on something, if you want to ask for one of my really good knock-knock jokes. Just send me an email and I would be glad to help you out. Again, Captain Safia on Twitter, safia.rocks is where I keep all my stuff on the internet. And I look forward to chatting with you guys for the rest of the night.
Thanks, Safia. Awesome. Yeah, I love hearing about what excited Safia, and I think about what we do to excite younger students. You know, at my old high school, and Wayne Beavis, the principal of Lindblom, is here now. There's a partnership at the school Lindblom with Henderson, an under-resourced, underserved elementary school in the neighborhood. And it is so wonderful to watch the fourth graders come over to be taught by the high schoolers. And when they learn loops, they learn dance moves, and they learn when to repeat those dance moves. So seeing kids up at the board learning loops that way before they ever sit down at a computer is really exciting and builds that sort of excitement that we've just heard about, and that thrills me. Speaking of thrilling me, as I go through puberty, there are two people that I'd like to bring up to the stage now and introduce. The first is Dr. Stephen McGee. He's the president of the Learning Partnership and a faculty member in the School of Education and Social Policy at Northwestern University. As an undergraduate, Stephen just missed the punch card days. Sorry, they were fun. His first programming projects were completed on a Macintosh 512KE. Technology has come a long way since then. Stephen has over 25 years of experience in research and development on educational technology. As the evaluator for the CS4All project, he will share with you the growth and impact that CS4All has had. And of course, you've heard a little bit about her, but Brenda Darden-Wilkerson is the Senior Manager for Computer Science and IT Education at the Chicago Public Schools. She leads the Computer Science for All initiative, which is building computer science into the general course of study at all Chicago public high schools as a core subject and a graduation requirement. She also developed the original vision and program for studies at the Early College STEM School Initiative, which opened 5 new schools in 2012. And in case you didn't know, computer science is the focus. She collaborates with college partners on both coasts and in between to increase access to post-secondary credentials for a diverse student population. She has lobbied to amplify the strength of the national conversation around computer science as a core educational requirement, speaking on a congressional panel in favor of a bill sponsoring the same. Building a base of tech sector and multi-vertical corporate sponsorship, she works to develop a culture of education innovation and was recently named an emerging leader by TEDx Midwest. And just because, we also have to mention that she's a graduate of Northwestern, because this seems to be the theme right now. So please welcome to the stage Stephen and Brenda. Maybe she's thinking.
Are these your slides? Okay. This is a preview for what Brenda's going to talk. Oops, I went too far. All right, so Donna talked about the early days of the Taste of Computing and how hard it was to get a grant. I did want to mention there's a list here of the 3 grants from the National Science Foundation that we've gotten as a team. And last year, the National Science Foundation started a new program called STEM Plus C. They awarded 12 grants nationwide. 2 of those actually came to Chicago. So the Accelerate ECS for All is focused on coaching. That was led by Lucia, writing that one. And then the CS4All validation study was one that I headed up with my colleagues to get. So 2 out of 12 is a great track record here in Chicago. But also Donna talked about sort of the early days of starting out very small and growing over time. So one of the things we wanted to highlight was how much this program has grown since the 2011-2012 school year. So in that time period, the growth has been by a factor of 50%, from a little over 6,500 to over 10,000 students just last year that have taken any kind of computer science course. And the program is really just getting started. During that time period, the number of schools offering computer science has increased by 25%. And that's continuing to grow by leaps and bounds every year. And just sort of highlight what Donna brought up with Stuck in the Shallow End about the disparity between computer science mostly being for white boys in high school. Those 10,000 students, 80% of them were either African American or Latino. So this program is reaching all the students. Over 40% of the students in those classes were female. So it's also reaching girls. And once again, this program is just getting started. And if the board passes the graduation requirement, that'll grow even further. During that time period, through the Taste of Computing project and the Code.org partnership, over 175 teachers have been trained specifically on the Exploring Computer Science introductory course. Of those teachers, half were women and half were Latino or African American, which all shows something that oftentimes in Chicago, the teachers that are teaching the students aren't reflective of who those students are. So I think we're reaching the right kinds of teachers to be teaching CS4All. Lastly, I wanted to highlight, Safia had mentioned in her course, she came into it with a strong interest in computer science, but had friends who wanted a taste of computing and really got jazzed and interested. And just to show that we're not cherry picking some students, across all the students who have taken ECS, we're seeing a strong relationship between the quality of their experience in the course, which is very high, and increasing their interest in taking another computer science class in high school, as well as boosting their interest to want to major in computer science in the long run. And so our study from the National Science Foundation on CS validation is going to look at, do students actually go on to take extra computer science courses in high school, and how we can continue to improve the quality of the course experience so that CS actually is for all. And so with that, now we have to go backwards to get back to where your slides were.
A moment. Okay, so now you've seen them twice, and so 3 times will be the magic number. Sorry about that. Okay, almost there, almost there, almost there, almost there. Okay, there we go. I think, yay. Okay, first of all, let me just say welcome to everyone. It is so wonderful to see you all here. I'm so proud and so excited for this time that we can share together to celebrate computer science. You've heard some wonderful things from my colleagues. We've been together for it feels like a long time, back when it wasn't popular to talk about computer science. I just have to give a shout out to Jesse because he's been with us from the beginning. There hasn't been anything that I've asked of him that he has said no to. Rob, we love you. You guys are wonderful. And it's because of partners like this that we can do the work that we're doing. I'm going to say thank you to more, but I'm going to move on for a second. So, right after the announcement, as Alan mentioned, we went right to work, planning to expand computer science into all high schools because that's where our work originated. But our partnership with Code.org that you've heard about earlier gave us some other options because they had developed some K-8 computer science curriculum. So we had a choice to make. Do we stick with what we knew, or do we go all in? So we had some things to ponder. Number one, there's this huge number of unfilled tech jobs. We keep hearing about them. They're abundant, they're impactful, and they are for people who understand computation. Number two, many students, especially girls and other underrepresented groups, they figure out whether or not they are even interested or can do STEM by 5th grade. Number three, there's a huge diversity problem in the tech sector. They say they can't find skilled technologists of color. We're women. And number four, we're CPS. We're highly diverse, and there's 400,000 students. So you know what that means, right? We had to start a K-12 revolution. We believed also that if we could illuminate the clear connection between computation and the other core subjects, we could increase the relevance of education for our students. And that's important, right? We want them to be engaged. the decision became clear. We had to dive in, and so dive in we did. We knew we needed to expose our students earlier so they could decide STEM for themselves. So we decided we would create the K-12 pipeline. Through a competitive process, we now have, through 2 cohorts, over 66 elementary schools and 21 high schools spread out across the district. And it truly is a revolution. So to go all in, we needed a hook. You know, back then, 2 years ago, computer science was not as easily understood as it is right now. But thanks to code.org, we had friends who helped us and everyone else understand that we were not talking about digital literacy. We were talking about true computer science. And so that hook allowed us to get into schools. And with that simple interface that was immediately accessible to both students and teachers, we were able to hit the K-12, the K-8 space, to add to our 9-12 space and really get that revolution started. We were one of the first major urban districts to say that we were going to put computer science into kindergarten classrooms, and we did it. But we were not just teaching our students about code, we taught them that computer science and information technology education is so much more. Along with on-screen curriculum, or what we call plugged activities, our students also learn about computer science, that there's planning and there's collaboration and there's creativity through offline activities, are called unplugged. Students get to explore, they call it play, and they get to learn how to fail and learn from failing and be okay about it. There's something else that we're bringing into classrooms that really gets me excited, because I'm also a computer scientist and I was in industry. I'll talk about that a little more later. We're also bringing all of our issues that we're grappling with in the culture into the classroom so that our students can help us think about those things and become part of the solution. Notice the students here. They're calling attention to the fact that there are very few women currently in the tech sector. So they decided to have a coding activity with a vow of silence. Notice the little girl with a "I am silent" across her lips to draw attention to this issue. And do you look at their faces? They get it, right? It's wonderful. So equity, you've heard Don talk about it. But we will never finish talking about equity because it's core to this work. And our teachers are doing an amazing job bringing the skills that they learn in professional development into the classroom and infusing it with thoughtfulness and ethics. We had a teacher, and this is an example of a teacher at Coonley Elementary, who asked this question of her students. And she got a wide range of answers, and I wanted to share them with you. So this is a collage of how many times she heard various words. And the thing that's exciting to me is things that traditionally were told or were spoken over computer scientists, like nerd and gaming geek and good at math. Can you even see those? They're really small. But things like perseverance and problem solving, hardworking and focused, those are much bigger. So that means our children are learning the right way, the new way for us to think about the technological revolution. And notice almost the biggest word up there? That means that taking all those things together, children realize that if they do those things, they are smart. I just wanted to share a couple pictures. They drew a bunch of pictures. It was really amazing, the things that they said. But the exciting one is the one on your left. Notice the girl who is programming something that's impacting the person on the gurney. So our children understand that this is not just the geek stuff on the side, but that this is what's driving our way of life. This picture is of a student who's programming a little robot called an Edison. And one of the things that's exciting about the way we are rolling out computer science is that students get automatic, immediate feedback for the things that they do. So they learn perseverance and they learn to try and try again, and it's really, really exciting. And I also want to take this opportunity to call out one of the blessings we got from the Taste of Computing grant, which is almost 500 robots that we could offer to our schools that didn't have budget set aside for the robotics in their curriculum. Here you see a picture of them all carted up in the warehouse, waiting for our schools to ask for them and for us to loan them out. And we can thank Lucia DeTore for that, even that idea. So thank you so much. So I'm going to talk some more later, but I just want to give you a status of where we are right now, because we've done this great work at the high school level. We're really excited, and now we've started at the elementary level, and wonderful things are happening. And right now we are in the final throes of forming cohort 3, where we're expecting to add 25 new elementary schools. If there are any high schools in the room, let me warn you, they're really excited. They're ready to go. And they want to know where they're going to send these excited, turned on, supercharged kids for high school to keep this party going. So I hope you're ready, and we're excited. And thanks again for coming.
I gotta go pass it on. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. Now you can see why the rest of us are so excited about all of this. Just amazing energy, amazing passion, and vision. It's really just so many pieces working together that are making this a reality. Next, I want to introduce to you two other people who are coming up to the stage. Actually, there are going to be a bunch of people coming up to the stage, but I've introduced some of them to you already. So now it's for Anu Gokhale. She has completed 20 years of university teaching and is currently a professor and coordinator of the Computer Systems Technology program at Illinois State University. She is named Fulbright Distinguished Chair at the University of Pernambuco in Brazil for 2016-17 and was a Fulbright Scholar to India in 2001. She's been honored with the 2011 University Outstanding Researcher Award and serves as Associate Director of the Center for Applied Information Sciences and Technology. She has presented around the world, and I just like to say these together, at Amman, Singapore, Maldives, Mumbai, Dubai, Shanghai. Just wanted to get all the I's in there at the end. Is truly a leader. And Kenton Makina, his PhD in philosophy, faculty member from 68 to 73 at Indiana University in Bloomington, my hometown, and 73 to 06 in Illinois State. She also was appointed to the Andes Chair in General Education. He was appointed to the Andes Chair in General Education at Illinois State to provide intellectual support for general education at the university. Theoretically retired at 06, but working on National Science Foundation projects ever since, best known in the philosophical and computer world for early work in fuzzy logic. Now working on questions relating science to fundamental traditional cultural concepts, such as personal responsibility. Funded by NSF for about 10 years now, partnered with Anu on developing more student interest in STEM plus C, and that includes the current project to create Computer Science Endorsement Program for Illinois. So please welcome them and the others up to the stage.
Thank you, Alan. Okay, good evening, everyone. Hey, we are here from Central Illinois, and I know we have a cohort from Central Illinois here, don't we? Yay! We are here to talk about Illinois State University's launch of Teacher Education in Computer Science program.
So we have an announcement that maybe many of you will be shocked, even, or surprised at least, to hear that there is now a program in existence, ready to go, for adding computer science as an endorsement to a teaching license in Illinois. That program centered at Illinois State, but we'll talk about how that impacts Chicago in a minute.
So here's a quick overview of the CS endorsement requirements. For the middle school, we have 18 semester hours of acceptable courses, and what those acceptable are, we'll talk in a minute.
At the high school level, It's 24 semester hours that's required, with also passing grade on the state's content examination in computer science. So there's a little difference between the two different levels.
And what's common for both middle school endorsement and high school endorsement is you choose from a list of distributed categories. The courses are distributed in categories, and everybody must take a computer science teaching methods course.
So the Illinois State Board of Education has been working with us. We have now got this curriculum accepted by the ISBE. That's kind of important.
That's a huge deal, actually, because the Illinois State Board of Education has actually accepted this program that Illinois State University has created. So which means the endorsement goes through very easily. The text curriculum prepares for state content exam in computer science as well.
So you've heard about exploring computer science, which we call ECS fairly often. This program simultaneously meets the state requirements, but also prepares teachers to teach ECS, as well as the new AP course called CS Principles. So we think we're on the right track since we're supporting those courses, particularly ECS is the one that Chicago is now pushing really hard to introduce. And so the teachers are prepared to teach that course.
And completion leads to a CS endorsement via recommendation from ISU, and that's a huge deal because once the teachers are recommended by ISU, it goes rather smoothly at the ISBE because they have already cleared the curriculum that Illinois State University has created.
So now, how does this apply to Chicago? You say, well, Illinois State is down in central Illinois. Do the teachers have to go down there to take these courses? And the answer is no. You'll hear a little bit more detail. We're not going to go into the list of courses, by the way. It's too complicated. But there is a special arrangement that's been made in partnership with the ISU Registrar's Office that will allow teachers in Chicago to take a major part of their coursework equivalent to the ISU courses at Chicago area institutions. So there will be a way of transferring. So you see, for this ISU course that has been accepted by ISBE, there will be a corresponding course in Chicago offered that a teacher can take instead without traveling to ISU. And so the recommendation for the endorsement can still be made by ISU.
Yeah, and that is a huge deal because not everybody would be able to take all the courses at Illinois State. So having that transfer, being able to use the courses that are equivalent to the courses that are approved would be very important. And teachers in Chicago may substitute, for example, in that same thread, Northeastern Illinois University courses or select Chicago Community College courses for ISU Teacher Education in Computer Science. That's what TEX stands for. While some ISU courses can be taken online or will be offered in Chicago, because there is a minimal number of courses that you do need to take at ISU if you want to be recommended by ISU. And we'll talk about that in a minute.
So this recommendation from ISU is kind of, as Nu has said, it's kind of a big deal because there is another way you can get endorsed, and that is a teacher can apply to the state directly on their own. We've heard that you usually don't get a response from ISBE in response to that application. It usually doesn't come back. The response doesn't come back for about 6 months. And then if you find out that you didn't make it, then you have to kind of like figure out why, and it's not quite clear always why you didn't make it. So it's much more efficient if you can get that recommendation from ISU. And so that's why we set up this joint arrangement with NEIU and ISU, and we'll work out substitute courses from community colleges so that ISU can issue the recommendation, and then that will entitle the teacher to getting the endorsement. So if you're a teacher, now I know some of you are not teachers, and so you don't really care about all this, but if you're a teacher sitting here in this room, this is a big deal for you.
No, if you're not a teacher, you still care because you want teachers in your classroom, right, students? So how does it work for Chicago-based teachers? First of all, no prior computer science background required, okay? So let's start there. We start from ground zero.
Then you take the required courses at ISU or the equivalent courses at comparable institutions. I mean, that's just what you would expect.
Chicago teachers take a minimum of 6 semester credit hours at ISU, like we just talked about. That minimum number includes 1 course, and that would be offered online, either a programming course or any other category course, and then a CS teaching methods, which ISU does plan to teach in Chicagoland.
And then, of course, you still have to pass the exam.
And basically, you apply to ISU with a $35 fee for its recommendation, ISU's recommendation to ISBE. So basically, for that fee, which is literally minimal, ISU actually looks at your courses, makes sure you have all the comparable courses compared to the ISU text curriculum, and then recommends you to ISBE. And as you can see, that recommendation from ISU will normally result in an endorsement within a couple of weeks. So that's pretty speedy.
We have set up these courses quite deliberately with NEIU. Why NEIU? Well, it's because they happen to offer the relevant courses in the evenings or in summer. And so they are offered at times that teachers are going to be able to take them. So if that's what you're thinking about, can I do this? That's something to keep in mind. We really are working for you to try to figure out a way to make sure that those courses are available for teachers at times they can take them.
Okay, some FAQs. Does a teacher get a degree from this program? Because we need to go quickly. I'm not going to ask the audience to answer, but just answer it myself. No.
Do the required courses carry graduate credit? What do you think? Well, this is a big deal for some teachers, and we're going to get to more detail about this. But generally, most of them do not. We're starting from scratch. We're starting from 100-level computer science courses. Some do. Some of the courses do carry graduate credit, not many.
So you might say, if I took these courses a while back, what happens then? The answer is not if you took them over 10 years ago. Okay, so that's the caveat.
What if you want to take courses somewhere else? Well, we're not going to tell you can't do it, but if they are equivalent to the ISU Tech courses, then we might be able to work out a deal. If they're not, you're on your own.
And that even applies if you're from Central Illinois. Then if you have courses that you take at Illinois Central College in Peoria, they would still apply if they are equivalent to the ISU text courses. So where can I find a list of these? Hey, we are not going to give you the list. No, no, no. That's your job to look at them at this website.
Now, there's supposed to be a handout. I think, is there going to be a handout? Yeah, you don't have to write this down. There will be a handout with the URL on it. You can take that with you. So here's a big deal. CPS has been talking about what to do to help teachers get this done. And so you see here what they are prepared to do. This is also a big deal. It took a long time. Now, some of you are thinking, well, what about lane credit? I don't know about lane credit. We don't have a contract. Don't worry about it. We're just saying this, all right? This is when lane credit is available, lane credit will be available, we think, okay? So.
And the details are forthcoming. And here's the ISU-TEX website, easy to know, TECS, Teacher Education Computer Science, .illinoisstate.edu. And then as part of that website, there's also an online guidance for Chicago teachers specifically that you can go to, which provides you the pathways to get endorsed.
So, that's it.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Go for it.
So additionally, talking about how we're going to be supporting teachers, one, of course, is a pathway to CS endorsement that Anu and Kenton just outlined. And the other is, at the end of our Taste of Computing grant, one of the things we realized was that we needed to provide more in-classroom support for teachers, especially teachers that don't have the CS background or who aren't as comfortable with leading an inquiry-based classroom environment. And so our new National Science Foundation grant, Accelerate ECS4All, is all about that. And like I said, one of the things that I'm proud of with Taste of Computing is that it's teachers working with teachers. And our new National Science Foundation grant is all about creating a protocol for coaching and peer mentoring. So teachers coaching and working with teachers, visiting classrooms, getting out of their school environment and seeing what other teachers are doing and helping each other. So that's our new 3-year study called Accelerate ECS4All. Thank you. And then, I don't have, oh. Sorry about that. There it is. And I'm going to call up Rob to come up. Rob and Jesse. Okay. Thanks. Come on up.
Thanks, everyone. I know everyone stayed here to listen to Rob, because just like the end of the Prince concert, right? After 9 hours, everyone's staying here at the end, right? You guys are the hardcore fans, right, for CS. And that's what we're looking for, right? 8.5 years ago, there was a group of passionate people in the CS community in Chicago, and Google loves to invest in passion, right? We picked the projects that people are passionate about that they would do whether they were getting paid for it or not, which in those days they weren't. They're doing CS on their own, right? And the training and everything. We like to pick projects, whether it's internal, whether it's funding community projects, et cetera, that people are passionate about and are going to make a huge impact, right? And look where we are today, right? Over all these years, when it was hard to get a CS class scheduled by a principal in a school, now we have hundreds of teachers trained. We have tens of thousands of students who are reflecting that word wall was amazing, right? Smart, creative, collaborative, right? All the words they were emphasizing. And I was like, if that's what the kids are coming out with, that's what I interview for every week, right? I do multiple interviews a week, and I'm looking for that. That's exactly what I want. And that's what the kids are building in these CS programs. So I know that our partnership with all the folks, CSTA, Code.org, CS4All, all the university partners, Dale at UIC, Lucia at DePaul, Ron at Loyola, Kenton at ISU, and Kemi at Northwestern, et cetera, Lane Tech and Northside Prep, and all the Mather, all the schools across the district has been yielded this, right? And this is what we were looking for, right? We know there's a shortage, 1.8 million jobs over the next few years. We're always hiring, and we don't have enough people to fill our seats. We always have great projects that go unfunded. You know, the next Google Cardboard, right? The next self-driving car. All these things are waiting to be built, and we know that if we put a bunch of smart people who believe in working together and changing the world and have those skills, that great things are going to happen, not just for a company like Google, but for all of us and all of society, right? So we are just been so happy to partner with this great group of people, this scrappy group of people who have, you know, over the years fought and got to us where we're here today, and we just want to accelerate more, and we're so glad to be here and doing that.
Thanks. I had some talking points that we're not going to use since it's a Monday night and it's Monday night. Brenda asked me to speak a little bit from a corporate perspective of why are we involved in computer science, I mean outside of the obvious, but why are we involved and how has our partnership worked? So for us, about 3 years ago, long before I got here, but when Chewy was here alone, we were really, they were really crusading on the importance of computer science education. About 3 years ago, as an office, we kind of decided enough with the river cleanups and the volunteering at the dog shelter, which is all very important work, but it was much more authentic to our mission that we actually really go deep on one issue and really try to move the needle on that one issue. So we landed at computer science education, especially for traditionally underserved communities. Since then, we've had this tremendous partnership with most of you in the room, especially Brenda and the team at CPS. And I think where we have found our niche of where we can be most impactful from a corporate social responsibility is in 3 ways. First of all, it's inspiring students to even look at computer science. So right now, Google has got a cool, our logo means something to kids for the moment, and we want to use the power of our brand to hook them into computer science. And we've done this in a number of different ways. Everything from CS First, which is content Google developed so that anyone can launch an after-school computer coding club, which has hours and hours and hours of curriculum based around topics like fashion or gaming or sports or different unique ways to really kind of get kids in the door and interested in computer science. We've done big awareness events. This summer we partnered with Brenda and again many of you in this room to do Geek Street, which was a one-day street festival where we took over Daily Plaza, and instead of booths of gyros and turkey legs, we had computer coding and robots, and we had about over 5,000 people turn out for that. So it was a huge success. So inspiring kids to get them to even look at computer science is a role that we think we can make an impact. Number 2 is helping to enable all of you that are out there doing the hard work. So whether that's partnering with code.org to host the professional development sessions here, whether it's when we worked with the CSTA to donate Finch robots to the Chicago Public Libraries, we made it possible that they could be checked out in bulk so that teachers could check them out and bring them to their classroom for a lesson there. And then finally, it's removing the roadblocks related to the digital divide. And whether that's we provide free Wi-Fi at the South Shore Cultural Center or Garfield Park Conservatory, we work with the Chicago Public Library to help fund a program with the Knight Foundation where you can check out Wi-Fi hotspots, so you can literally check out the internet and take it home, or whether it's donating hardware, which we recently did working with Brenda and her team, where we donated refurbished Google laptops, 150 laptops, to the Chicago Public Schools Foundation. So inspiring students, helping teachers teach, and removing the roadblocks related to the digital divide is really where we think we can provide an impact and move the needle. But again, our partners in this room, you all are doing the hard work. We get to do fun things like host fun events where you all come and show and the really cool things you do. So thank you to the partners, and thank you all for being here tonight.
I can't say thank you enough to these guys. I mean, they do this work from their hearts. They don't have to help us like they do, but they do. And because they come out and they share, can you hear their passion? Our teachers hear that passion, our students get that passion, and we are able to move forward and do things that we would not be able to do. And it's because of partners like these. There are additional partners that I'm showing up here on the screen, and there's so many more that have been with us for so long and helped us to do things. But I want to, in the interest of time, because I want you guys to, I'm going to lock the door here in a minute because you got to hear this, last pitch before you go. I want to just say that we could not do this without principals and teachers who have decided that no matter how hard things are right now and how crazy things are in the media, they are still focused, and they have decided that this is the right thing to do at this time. So if I have any principals or teachers here who are doing computer science, could you all stand up and let's give them a hand? I mean, thank you. Thank you on behalf of our children. Thank you on behalf of our city. This is the right thing to do at the right time, but you had to do it. You had to decide to do it. So, all right, so I just want to talk a little bit about the initiative. It's called Computer Science for All. And we've seen that there are more people who've decided to do Computer Science for All, and that's really exciting. But the first thing I want to do before I go on is to clarify what all means. So I want to show just a little segment of a video right now for a second.
I'm going to start off by giving you a background about me. I coded my own iOS app completely on my own and completely in Objective-C when I was 10 years old. I formed my first company and I submitted my first app to the App Store in the same year. And I'm now working on 2 new apps and 1 big idea project. I'm passionate about coding and development. Over the last several years, coding has taught me a bunch of coding-related skills. I've learned HTML, CSS, PHP, JavaScript, MySQL, Ruby on Rails, Objective-C, Unison, and a bunch of other web server things. It has also given me a few coder-related bad habits, like poor posture. I've also picked up a ton of general computer-related skills. I've learned word processing, design, and database apps. But coding has taught me so much more than coding. I've learned logic, time management, dealing with failure and setback, organization, design, entrepreneurialism, being part of a community, problem solving, creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, communication, and yes, public speaking. This is great, but there's a problem. I haven't learned any of this in school. I've done it all at home with my dad and on my own. I get to code for only about 15 minutes in the morning before school and about only 30 to 60 minutes at night after I've completed all of my homework. See, that's time management. I wish I could learn coding and development in school, but I can't. It's not offered.
So cute, right? Warms your heart. You know, the good thing is that if he were here in Chicago, he could learn coding in school, couldn't he? And because we're making it happen in our schools. But there's a problem with this picture. Unconsciously, he is the poster child for who everyone believes will solve our technology problems. He looks like him. He has his background. His dad provided an opportunity for him to get it at home. And he already knows that he needs computer science in his school. Now, we love him. We've got great students like him, and we want him to have computer science too. But Computer Science for All was created for those students who don't know yet that they need computer science. But in them is the innate talent to be great. And that's what we want to do. So I'm going to talk a little bit about all of the things that people have said to us as we've tried to get this thing done. You know, they've said, well, will kids really like this? Well, obviously, Jonathan likes it. But let's face it, we don't teach our kids things because they like it or because they ask for it. Do we give them math because they beg for it? Do we offer them Shakespeare because they go, oh, please? No. We do it because we believe as educators it's the right thing to do, to make them into the citizens that they should be. Is that right? So it's important for our children's education, then that we should offer it. So what is Computer Science for All? It is a program that answers so many questions. So, you know, sometimes people say to me, well, why do you want to do this? And why do you want to do this now? And what is it about anyway? So I'm going to attempt to answer some of those questions. Computer Science for All is what computer science is about. Problem solving. Problems of equity, empowerment, opportunities, and just plain good old economics. The advancement of our children, the transformation of our communities, our city, and our nation. We want to economically empower everyone to help solve tomorrow's problems. See, we believe that every child has innate potential that can be developed, enhanced, and brought forth and alive with computer science education. We believe it serves the common good to make sure that public education is the great equalizer we know it can be. We also believe that by doing so, all of us win. Whether you're in government, whether you're in industry, no matter where you are. As you've seen, we've already been doing great things, not only for our students in this district, but for students in other districts. That's Computer Science for All. The goals of our initiative officially launched over 2 years ago, and this is something I say, and I try not to be emotional, have now become the goals of our nation. I am so proud of our president that he stood up and said that every student should get computer science, bringing our nation into the 21st century like other nations that have gone before us. So I'm here to share how I think this story should go and ask you if you can help us make it happen. Right now, there's over 600,000 open jobs, purportedly because companies cannot find skilled labor to take them. And we've heard the fact that by the year 2024, there will be over 1 million of them if we stay on this trajectory. Now, what that says to me is our pipeline is not working. But the good news is our children are the beginning of that pipeline. They're a huge part of the solution to this problem. That's one of our children, okay? Now, if the national number is too big, let's just talk about Illinois. Right now, there are almost 26,000 unfilled tech jobs in Illinois, with only 1,500 CS graduates in the queue. Computer Science for All is the solution to that problem, giving children the preparation and exposure that they need to choose this path. Here's another one. Okay. Now, Chicago, where we all live and where we want to make success happen, we can do it. Notice we're already in the top 15 hiring regions in the country. Currently, there are almost 180,000 open tech jobs that you can go out and see in job postings. And they're good jobs, but they're not the highest jobs. They're not jobs that our kids can't do. They're jobs like computer programmer and data engineer and InfoSec analyst and net support specialist. Look at some of those the growth in those jobs over the past few years, and look at those salaries. So Computer Science for All was born to address the gap. I come here tonight to issue a challenge to our city, to our state, to our nation. We can grow our own. Are you up to the challenge? Now, Computer Science for All was built for our student body, and these are the demographics of our kids. 86%, you've already heard, are free and reduced lunch. 17% are English language learners. That is why we want to start preparing our children early. We want to start in kindergarten, and we've done it, so that they can become aware. We want to show them that they can do these things before they hear nerd, geek, all those things that a lot of us heard that might have turned us around. We want to have them gain some skills and prepare to be really successful in high school while they're in middle school, so that when they get to high school, they can graduate fully equipped with valuable skills for whatever their next step is. Computer Science for All was created for students like, we'll call her Sheila, to protect her identity. I got this letter from her teacher. It says, Sheila transferred to this school partway through the year and had never learned anything about coding. When she first came to our school, she fought often. And she told me that her goal was to work at McDonald's. See, Sheila comes to school with a lot on her mind. She witnessed domestic violence in her home. She saw a policeman shoot her father as he was attacking her mother with the blunt object. So these are the kinds of things that she was thinking about. After doing several CS4All and Hour of Code activities, her fighting totally stopped as she became completely engrossed in the problem solving and critical thinking of the offline coding activities. In December, she happily told me that she wants to work as a computer programmer at Facebook or Microsoft when she grows up. The teacher goes on to say, the opportunity for rigorous, hands-on, engaged learning via the CS4All program literally changed her life. And we believe it will provide her with an excellent vocation and salary. She also has a call out for anybody who wants to come over and mentor, so we could talk about that later. Computer Science for All is delivering not only skills, but hope and inspiration and direction. So now let's talk about what happens if we don't do this. Sheila was already talking about working at McDonald's. And so if we leave her where she was, here's what she can look forward to. If she grows up to work at McDonald's, if she gets to work full time, and maybe some overtime, she'll get to make probably about $25,000. The sad fact is that's the median income for many of our families in Chicago, for a family of 4. Now, put next to that the fact that the average starting salary for a tech worker, conservatively, is $75,000. Let's take a closer look at Sheila. If she goes on to work at McDonald's, demographics say in our nation, and especially in this city, there's a rising trend of free female bread earners, which means that either she's the sole provider or she makes more money than her husband. In this scenario, on average, a female bread earner takes care of about 9 other people financially. That means that not only Sheila, but the rest of these people are living under the poverty line. Studies by the World Bank have shown that one of the most significant ways to impact people in poverty is to college educate the female, which is why I use her in this example. So now investing in Sheila invests in her whole family, moving everyone out of poverty. We hear stories every day from teachers. I mean, it just melts my heart when they call and they tell me students that didn't come to school are now coming to school. Students that were misbehaving are now not misbehaving. That means that probably they're doing better and they're getting better grades. They're more likely to graduate. If we invest in Sheila, not only will she graduate, she may be able to go after some of these great scholarships that are available across our state for computer science and IT undergraduates. And then she may graduate and make the average tech salary of $95,000, not only solving problems for the company that she works for our city, for our neighborhoods, but for herself and those 9 people that she was taking care of. So Computer Science for All solved a problem. It's solving a problem for our city. It's solving problems of economic empowerment, rebuilding communities. Computer Science for All is social justice. By the way, there's been radio silence from the folks at the state level, other than when they reached out to ask me for my recipe book. Of course, they offered no money. So one of the first asks I have for you tonight, if there's anyone in here with any lobbying power, reach out to the folks at the state level. Help them understand that with which they struggle. What's good for Chicago is good for Illinois. Everyone, contact your state representative. Tell them that they need to help make sure that the $4 billion that President Obama has designated for states to help them develop Computer Science for All, that some of it gets here. Also reach out to tell them that this task force that they have finally put together, we need to be on it. Let them know that the work has started here and we need to be included. And finally, tell them to not block the president's appropriation. Let's let our voice be heard. Yeah. So, CPS is the first major district to have CS as a graduation requirement, and its own graduation requirement, not counting as math or counting as science, that's nice, but it's a pure computer science graduation requirement, which means our teachers don't have to also be math teachers in order to teach computer science, and we think that's a major victory. Can I get an amen from the teachers? Yes! But I want to make sure that you understand why this matters and why we want this graduation requirement to pass on Wednesday. It's because we want to ensure that every student, before they leave our doors, have the foundational skills that they need and the knowledge that it will take to make the decisions that they need to make for their lives and for our lives, because our children are going to take care of all of us. If it is a change whose time is indeed overdue. And I'm here to tell you, and there's one more thing people like to say. You know, do you guys really have time to deal with this right now? You got all these money problems, you've got all this stuff going on. Are your teachers really up to this challenge? Here's a letter that I got from a teacher from a STEM elementary school. I just wanted to say thank you for allowing us to be part of history and keeping us in the loop. For such a long time, I felt alone, knowing that computer science had a place in education and how we were doing an injustice to our children by not having a proper K-12 curriculum. Does that sound like someone who's disengaged? Our teachers have stepped up to this challenge. They are excited and they are innovative. We are up to this challenge if we're all in it together. Computer science for all is community. Computer science for all is solving problems. Computer science for all is for students like this student at Community Links. I got another letter. She says, we started with exploring computer science in the fall of 2014. It was a learning experience for all of us, especially myself. Equipped with the knowledge I had gained at the excellent ECS professional development sessions, we had a successful first year. One student in particular, I'll call her Tina, entered the class in the fall saying, I hate computers. I just took this class because I didn't like the other teachers. By the end of the class, she had changed her tune. She really grew to enjoy the artistry of programming. One day after school, I found her in the computer lab working on Scratch. Are you finishing your project, I asked? She said, no, I finished that at home. Right now, I'm working on a story for my friend who lives in California. I was going to call him, but I'm making it in Scratch because it's better that he can see it. Computer science for all is growth. Computer science for all is transformation. Unlike Jonathan, she didn't know she needed computer science in her school, but now she does, and she's tomorrow's innovator. So, how are we going to do this? Well, you've heard some great things. We've got great partners who've made a way for our teachers to both have professional development and to get the credentials they need to teach computer science. We've got great partners who've stood with us all this time to help us to get to the place where we've already got hundreds of teachers who are already raring to go and doing this thing and doing it well. We're investing in one of our primary resources, which is our teachers, so that they can engage our most precious resource of our city, which is our children. CS4All is for students at schools like Wells. With a challenging history, many would have said Wells should not have taken this on. Among other things, they have a really small population, or they had. However, the amazing leader there, she has a vision, and she has supported an amazing teacher here who's in our audience with us. Where's Shadia? Stand up, Shadia. I have to give her a shout out. She is in the back. She continuously brings new learning opportunities to her kids. So after helping them excel at ECS the first year, they added a game development pathway. So now their students have a pathway to go on with that great learning that they started with. And just this year, they created a new product, a group of her students, which is a set of night vision goggles for military men and women. I listened to one of the students say, our goggles are lighter and less expensive than the military issue. That's amazing. That's entrepreneurship. That's determination. That's acceleration. That is computer science and computer science for all. And lastly, you might recognize this guy. You've been getting to know him tonight. He's our chief, Alan Mather. He created this amazing program that he shared earlier, where students at Lindblom teach students at Henderson. It was a wonderful transformation, and I got to witness it. To have students who traditionally had never come to Lindblom every week and learn key computer science skills, to see the confidence, to see the growth, not only in those students, but in the student teachers. It was a surprisingly exciting, innovative thing to do that now has gone to the next level because they're not one, but two schools. Is that right? Or are we up to three? Okay. It's exciting. It's innovation. It's automation. It's collaboration. That's computer science, and that's computer science for all. Now, we've done all this work on a shoestring. We did it on our own before all the great money that came to New York was even thought of. We looked and we said, this needs to be done. Just 2 years ago, we accelerated, and look at what we've done. We're not unlike many legendary tech startups like Bill Gates, who started in his garage. We've started with little, but now is the time for us to, where we need to move to that next level, and we need some capital to get that done. So New York has decided that they're going to invest $80 million over 10 years to get theirs done. And San Francisco, who also has a Computer Science for All initiative, has won $14 million from their partner, which is Salesforce. We're so thankful for all of the support that we've gotten so far from our people that have stood with us, that many of them are in the room. I also want to mention UMass Boston. We have Deborah Barver from there. All of these people who have written us into grants and supported this work so far. But while others have followed in our footsteps, the computer science department really consists of two people, two full-time people. That's myself and one other person. Everyone else, and I want to shout out to all my staff. So who's on our staff here? Who helps us? Johnny, Ed, Charnel, Claire. Where's Andy? Where's Carmen? Okay, and there's Rainice. These people have worked tirelessly. But most of them are part-time, or they come to us for free from the U of C U-Prep program. It's time to go to that next level. It's time for us to invest in our own. So you say, okay, Brenda, what do you need? Well, of course we need computers, right? Our schools need computers. But they need more than that. They need labs where creativity and collaboration can take place. That means they need robots and they need a bunch of other things, but we're happy to say we can do a lot of this stuff on the cheap. So I'm going to show you some calculations here. I won't go into all of them, but what we're asking for is an initial investment so that each school can get an extra lab, so that no matter what happens, even if they are doing testing, good computer science education is not disturbed. And so you see the figure there. We're looking for an extra lab in about 350 schools, about $12,500 per school. There's the total. But way more than computers. I don't want you to misunderstand. Just throwing a bunch of computers at this is not going to solve the problem. It is teachers who teach computer science. And so we need to invest in them. And you heard about the ways we've talked about earlier with professional development and with the CS credential. You know, we're not teaching how did you put it, Alan? Your father's computer science. Or even mine, because I am a computer scientist. You know, I forgot to mention that. I worked in industry as a computer programmer, as a software developer, as a data engineer, and a bunch of other things. And yes, I started when there were punch cards. Oh, okay, have to mention that. I hate to tell my age like that. But we're not teaching it that way. We're not teaching it the way I learned it. And so even if we have teachers who are credentialed in computer science, we still need to invest in them so that they can make learning student-centered and focused and fun and relevant. So here's an investment. So because of our partnership with code.org, we don't have to pay the higher amount for PD while we're still in contract with them. And so we're looking for a smaller dollar amount per year, a certain number of teachers. New York is training 5,000 teachers. We're hoping to train at least 2,000 teachers. And so this is a figure that we're working with. And you'd heard Kenton and Anu talk about the credential investment. We got some teachers who already have hours. And so we're looking at helping teachers not necessarily get all 24 of the hours, but some of them. What else? Curriculum and assessment. We've got a great complement to start with, but we need more. You know, the beast needs feeding. I get calls every day from schools. Okay, we got through with all that. What next? That's exciting, isn't it? And so we want to make sure that our students stay challenged and that they have a great time while they're doing it. The investment, not much, that much per year. Okay, you can read it. You heard Don talk about us investing into the classroom and helping teachers so that they are not alone. You know, professional development is great, but when teachers go back to their classroom and they're new and they slam their door, and the first time one of those students says something that sounds like they know more than the teacher, sometimes they might want to retreat. We want to make sure that they stay supported. And so we have several levels of support that we've designed for them. University teaching assistants. These are graduate level students, PhD students that are in CS or in STEM that come in and they bring that project-based learning. They bring the energy of youth. They are a great example for our students of what happens if you continue on that pathway. Don talked about the master teacher concept, and we also have classroom coaches. And there's a figure. I'm not going to bore you with it. We also need instruction for our small schools. Is anybody in here from a high school that's really small, that might be challenged with adding computer science? So we have a plan. We'd like to put together a set of citywide teaching pool, where we have teachers who take computer science into those schools, geographically organized so they can show up 2 to 3 days a week and teach a full-fledged computer science course. There's our figure for that. Lastly, I want to put a call out for anybody who's a developer. I'm not a fundraiser. I just care enough about this to ask y'all for money. But we would love to have somebody who's really skilled at helping us to go out and fundraise so that we can make sure that computer science stays a reality in our schools. So we've set up a website that is ready tonight, and we're really thankful for our partners at the Illinois Technology Foundation who made this happen, so that if you want to give as little as $5, or if you're in here and you want to give us that $80 million or that $14 million, knock yourself out. You can get there several different ways. You can text CS to BidPal, and those are the numbers, or you can go to that website and you can do the work as the same. You can even pledge if you're not ready to give. But I want to say, we can't stop now. Not when Amber has already learned about algorithm when she's 5. We can't let something as insignificant as money get in our way when we have teachers and principals and partners that can help us get this work done. We can solve this problem. We have to. She's counting on us. Not when we have teachers or students who are taking state and regional robotics competitions by storm. They're creating new projects and products and companies. You know, Safia forgot to mention that she started a company called Chicago, what's it called? Chicago girls in computing. When she and 4 other girls, when she was a junior at Northside College Prep, her heart said, I'm getting great sound computer science education. Other girls should be getting it too. And so they created a company so they could go out and teach girls in elementary school. Our kids are taking the knowledge that they're learning in our courses, and they are taking it on the road, and they're helping us solve problems. So we can't stop now. They're counting on us. Together we can do this. It's really not that hard. And our result will be that we will not only be able to solve problems, we'll be able to make the type of Chicago and community that we all really want to live in. Thank you.
And so in closing, I want you to think about how 4 people started this. 4 people had the vision, 4 people had the energy, and how this has grown. I mean, back when they thought of this 4 years ago, you know, the old saying about teaching is it's the only profession where people only ask questions you know the answer to. That is not true anymore. We have moved into a brand new realm, a realm where we are learning together. And to learn together, we need to support together. So once again, Brenda showed you how to support this. Please, if you can't now, talk to people who can and get this going. We need it for our students. We need that 4 to become 40,000. We need to serve our kids. Please give. Thank you. Have a great night. Thank you, Google. Thank you.